Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are watching from. Welcome to Nigeria in Focus on Diaspora Digital Media, the program where we delve into the heart of Africa's most populous nation, exploring its complexities, challenges, and triumphs. In today's edition, we're shining the spotlight on a critical issue that affects us all, taxation. The proposed tax reform bill has been making headlines in recent weeks, but many Nigerians are still unclear about what it entails and how it will impact their lives. As we gather here today, many questions remain unanswered. What are the key provisions of the bill? How will it affect individual taxpayers and businesses? What are the implications for the economy as a whole? To provide clarity on this critical question, we have with us today Mr. Nick, a renowned expert on media. Our guest will break down the proposed tax reform bill, highlighting its key provision, benefits, and potential challenges. Through thought-provoking conversation, expert analysis, and personal stories will provide a nuanced perspective on Nigeria, moving beyond the headlines and stereotype. Our goal is to spark meaningful discussions, foster greater understanding, and inspire positive change. So if you are looking for an answer on the proposed tax reform bill, you are in the right place. Let's get started. Before I go further into the nitty-gritty, I'll break it down and educate you on the current national tax distribution system. All taxes generated by state government are sent to federal government through the Federal Inland Revenue Service monthly. The federal government then distributes these funds based on the VAT distribution rule. Federal government takes 15%. State government takes 50%. Local government takes 35%. The federal government uses a formula to calculate each state's share of the 50%. For example, 100 million is generated. Federal government takes 15%, which is 15 million. State government takes 50%, which is 50 million. Local government share 35%, which is 35 million. The 50% allocated to state is further divided into three parts equally. 50 for population, 30 for derivation, 20 for derivation, and 30 for population. So in equality sharing, the states are supposed to share 50% of the revenue equally. Population, after the first equality sharing, the second half is split between population and derivation. For population, 30% of the generated revenue in this case is shared based on each state population size. States with larger population receive more money than those with smaller ones. Derivation only have 20%, which mean the states that contributed more taxes receive the more, regardless of population and size. Then let's talk about the next new tax bill, the one that is causing all the troubles. The federal government reduced its allocation by 5% and added it to the states, increasing their share to 55%. Local government allocation remained the same for state sharing. Equality has been lowered to 20 from 50%. Population has been reduced from 20 to 20 from 30%. Derivation, previously the lowest at 20, has been exponentially increased to 60%, making it the highest, surpassing both equality and population sharing. Thank you. That's the background that I want to make. Coming back to our guest today, Mr. Nick. Well, thank you for having you in our studio today.
Thank you so much for having me.
I know you are more than capable to answer all these questions, to give us a deeper understanding of the subject matter. So before I go further, I would like you to give us a brief about you and maybe your experiences and all of that.
Thank you very much, Ibrahim. My name, like you rightly said, is Nicholas. So most of my friends call me Nick. So I know that I'm a journalist, pure and simple. I'm a reporter. You know, I have reported several fields. My specialty is development reporting, conflict, diversity, and infrastructure, stock, and things like that. So essentially what I do is I report issues that has to do with human development, human capital development. So, you know, along the line, we did a bit of business reporting, and issues of like tax, come to the fore when we do reporting in those days. But you see, I must say something here. I must add a caveat. The tax matters, It's something that is a bit complex in this part of the world, and I'm not exempted. There is poor tax education, and that is why you see in some states you have efforts at re-educating the people about tax. Like in Kwara State, for instance, where I happen to practice as the bureau chief of a national daily. Every year, the Kwara Internal Revenue Service Board, does quizzes and debates among secondary school students to educate them on the need to pay tax. Tax is one of the most organic way of growing an economy. And of course, because of poor education here in this part of the world, especially in Nigeria, we tend to have a lot of fears and uncertainty when issues of, reviewing the tax policy, comes to the fore. Now, in developed economies, what you hear is the people who are wealthy talking more about tax. Are you taxing them more? Are you taxing their wealth more? The people who are poor, are you taxing us more? But here, what you have are people who probably haven't paid tax all their lives, politicians, office, holders, traditional rulers, are the one talking more, because you are talking of that thing touches their interest. As you have seen in that initial analysis you made, you see a lot of, the previous tax system we had does not reward enterprise. And that is what the federal government is trying to do. And I sincerely hope, I wish them luck. And I wish, they can carry it to fruition and carry the whole of Nigeria along.
Interesting. So, sir, I want to know something about this tax. Before you said the tax we are currently practicing is not rewarding enterprise. Can you elaborate more on that?
You see, the thing is this, and if you look at it, essentially, what is tax about? Tax is about you paying your due to government so that they can use that money to develop the economy. It started from the feudal system that we used to have. After a farmer contribute, at the end of the season, he takes to the owner of the land. That owner of the land ensures security, ensures that your continuity on that land. When there are disputes, he solves it. So those things are meant to, to create infrastructure that helps him carry out those special responsibility. So now, when you do that, you understand, you ensure continuity in that process. So the same way tax system evolved from that. They pay to kings. Kings then get people to do roads. They use the tax to arm soldiers, to ward off people who come to disturb you in your homes. They use it to pay judges who render judgment in the local courts. So that is what tax is. So it is essentially the token you pay for ensuring that your business continues. So if business grows, the more you have more taxes, the more you have prosperity. So, but unfortunately, over time, because we inherited a poor taxing system in the country, you have a situation where rather than rewarding enterprise, rather than rewarding people who are working, you now have the sharing of the taxes among things that has absolutely nothing to do with enterprise at all. Like you have in the case of, what's it called again? Constituency, number of constituency, the number of population, the number of people you have in your district. It's not supposed to be like that. Yeah. Because the responsibility of whether you want to populate or depopulate should be on the basis of resources.
Yes, that reminds me of the stereotype that is going around. That's probably this a new tax reform will negatively affect the economy of certain areas in the country. Is that true? Does it hold any weight?
Well, you see, the thing is this, it depends on where you are standing and where you are looking at it. Well, the big elephant in the room is what the North is saying essentially. I have never been an advocate of saying, not looking at, I like looking at things from both sides. If I were a Northerner, how would I feel? Something that tends to attack my value system, you are bound to see that kind of response. Yeah. So, but then you see, normally what I advise is that you look at it from both ends. You understand? If we say our value system, if it attacks our value system, what essentially is our value system? Does our value system reward indolence and laziness? Those are questions we should ask ourselves. Not at all. Our value system.
I listened to Governor Zulum. And he made mention that it is not only the northern states that the new tax reform is going to affect, but actually the whole country. Okay. Because to him, the only state that will benefit from this new tax reform is Lagos, which happened to be producing the highest number of IGR. They have companies and all of that. There's 2 seaports in Lagos and all of that. So if the sharing formula has been changed, derivation, which is currently 20%, if this tax reform has come to fruition, it will skyrocket from this 20% to 60%. What will be the negative impact on the states that are generating less, which in that case is all the 35 states, including the Federal Capital Territory?
Okay, and then like I said, those concerns are legitimate. You see, Professor Zulum is a man I respect deeply. And if you ask me, I think he's one of the few performing governors you have in the country. But you see, what he's trying to say is this, that the federation empowered Lagos to grow. You see, Lagos cannot willy-nilly say that their enterprise is as a result of their hard work alone. No. Lagos State was a former Federal Capital Territory. There was concentration of a lot of things there through federal effort. So if through that federal effort, it became the leading generator of enterprise, tax from enterprise, then it should not see it wholly at its own doing. And in that regard, in that logic, he is right. But you see, on the other side is this. Over the years, we've been talking about fiscal federalism. You understand? In fact, before I even make this point, let's not forget that Zulum is not even the only one seeing a kind of discrepancy in what that tax proposes. Some parts of the South, for instance, are equally saying that, look, now that is their resources. They can generate tax. That is their resources. Over here in Niger Delta, we have oil in abundance. And this has been sustaining the country. Now, if you decide to do tax that way, why not do oil too in that way? Why can't Ondo State decide on their bitumen too? Why can't Kwara State and some other contiguous states decide on their lithium deposit too?
And people will say this is a legitimate argument.
But of course, it's a legitimate argument if we are talking about equity and justice.
Yeah.
You understand? So, but you see, the unfortunate thing is that, sometimes in these days, it's not about equity anymore.
Sure.
It is no longer about equity anymore. Sometimes it's about bending backwards to allow for things that might not, that we allow leaders to be much more forthcoming, be more transparent, be more enterprising, be stop being lazy. So these are some of the things that I think that Zulum is trying to say, that Zulum is saying on the one hand, and the other proponents of the tax reforms are saying on the other.
You actually did justice to the topic. I want us to delve a bit into the complexity of the makeup, should I put it, the makeup of Nigerian society, because we have this kind of belief, it has been, like most of the people believe in it, that's actually northern part of Nigeria having the total dominance in the political space and not producing or generating anything to the federal government is more or less like monkey the walk, baboon the chop. What's your stand on that?
Yeah, I laugh when people say things like that. Have you ever been hungry, Ibrahim? You've ever been hungry?
Yeah, I have been.
You've ever been hungry. Yes. Now, let me tell you, let me make a guess. More than likely, on daily basis, you at least eat tomatoes once in a day, right?
Sure.
Okay, where does that tomato come from?
From the farm.
Yeah, from the farm. And which part of Nigeria?
No part of the country.
Now, you talk about yam too. You talk about the major staples, rice, and so many of them. Where does it come from? So does it look like indolent people are there? No, that's not it. So that tells you that is not true. That I have never bought into that perception. Rather, what I think the problem is the refusal of the federal system we practice to explore the potentials of the North. In fact, if you say they have population is a resources. You understand? We're able to market Nigeria because of our population. There are countries that are bigger than Nigeria but don't have our population. But when it comes in terms of market, we are talking of the market size of Nigeria is huge. And we leverage on those. So it's not, I have never subscribe to that kind of thinking, and I will never start subscribing to it now. I believe that every region, every part of the country is endowed. The only problem we have is leadership, the proper leadership to harness these resources. So it's not a case of, You know, let us even assume without conceding to them that it's monkey they walk, baboon they chop. Who made the monkey and who made the baboon? It is the system that created the monkey and the baboon.
Sure.
So if the baboon decides to say this thing you are trying to say is against my interest, then the Nigerian system should look for a way of assuaging that interest.
Sure.
Like opening up the state, for instance. I have argued several times. Now it has come back to bite everybody that you cannot have a system where you have one port system. It's especially with the expanse of sea line that we have in Nigeria. We are talking of most countries don't have this kind of resources. You have the Ibom port, you have the Port Harcourt port, you have the Calabar, you have Bayelsa, and you're telling me you can't even Onitsha close by here, which is a hub. So all you just need is to create a cheaper transport system. If you want to rely on Lagos alone, there's Warri Port there too. So there's Calabar Port. It's so massive. So if you want to, and when you look at this other, geographically, when you look at it, the length from Lagos to Maiduguri is farther than if you want to take it from Calabar to Maiduguri.
Sure.
So at the end of the day, you understand, we have created a system that rewards, that makes everything conducive for Lagos to be an enterprise hub. Now, we just suddenly wake up one morning and decide that the tax system is not fair. The other people will say, look, it's our legitimate will that we gave to Lagos that made Lagos what it is.
What it is today.
So you cannot just decide unilaterally after we have contributed to make Lagos what it is and then allocate that kind of humongous resources to it at the detriment of us. So, what I'm trying to get Nigerians to see is that as good as the tax is, there is a need for us to really sit down and talk. And I guess that is why the president is saying that the Attorney General of the Federation and the lawmakers and the concerned people should really sit down how they can tinker with that law. But in law, I see that law as a positive development, but a lot of talking needs to be done. So there are some other things I would like to draw.
Yes,
that law matter.
Talking about potentials, the youth population in Nigeria. Nigeria have is the number one country in terms of youth population in Africa, because 70% of its population happen to be below 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
So with this, it amounts to nearly 130 million in numbers. So in spite of the numbers, the prospect that the number holds, the youths continue to be left behind. Okay. Especially in governance, in politics, in business, and many aspects. And not just that, the unemployment rate is alarming.
Mm-hmm.
What's your advice and suggestion that what the government should likely do to make sure that this alarming rate of unemployment that is actually part of the thing that is causing insecurity and all of that in the country? Looking at there's a saying that an idle mind is a devil workshop. How can they engage the youths?
Yeah, they can. You see, again, we'll still talk about our tax system. What the tax system is trying to do is to empower governors to be more enterprising. Yeah. And when there is enterprise, there is only one way you can draw labor force, and that's the youth, the productive youth. So it is not only in the hands of federal government. Federal government has done something, which is to create a kind of system that will now allow governors to unleash the potentials they have in their respective states to bring in more people into the labor force and tax them more. So to a very large extent, I think, honestly, I subscribe to those who say that an emergency has to be declared in that sector of engaging the youth. Mm-hmm. And that is why, it is not just about the seriousness of the situation. We are talking of an idle hand, like you rightly said, even the workshop of the devil. And that is why you see a lot of insurgencies in the areas of the north.
Sure.
What is really happening is you have a lot of people who have been left uneducated. Then you left without a means of living, a means of livelihood, and all of a sudden some people with nefarious, hidden agenda, evil, machinations just come and lure them with a few naira to create menace in their own society. They have very little compunction. They will join without compunction. So that is what we are saying. It's going to go a lot of things has to be done in trying to get them into the system. And that leads me to a point that I almost forgot. You see, about even the law thing and even about whatever effort it appears as if government is doing through its policies, which is this tendency of Nigeria, saying the right thing, appearing to do the right thing, but not getting any results. In fact, there is this thing that there is a coinage that some development reporters, researchers once gave Nigeria. They call it isomorphic mimicry. It's a kind of a process system they found in some organisms. Those organisms will copy a nearby species, have its organ, have its system, have everything resembling that organ, but those organs and those systems are not doing the same function that they copied from. So you see, when you talk of in terms of policy making, in terms of creating infrastructure, in terms of creating so many things, Nigeria is not short of it. But there has always been the interpretation of that policy into making the life of the average Nigerian worthy. That has always been the problem. Sure. So that is one fear I failed to mention in that tax thing. 4 bills in all. One is to rename the Federal Inland Revenue Service, the Federal Inland Revenue Service, rename it, then create an omnibus tax system that takes care of every tax within the country, then create a service system and things, about 4 thereabout. Yes. Then reorganize the tax collection system. So it's a very good bill when you look at it on the surface. The re-evaluation of the sharing formula is equally good, but how well can it be implemented? Even if we talk to ourselves and we agree, that has always been another problem that gives me the jitters.
The heebie-jeebies. And this leads us to the next question. What measure do you think should be implemented to ensure that the tax reform benefits low-income earners and small businesses?
In a way, I have mentioned it. You see, number one, the recruitment system in terms of the people who are going to do it, it has to be as diffuse as possible. Yes. It's not a situation where one sector captures the whole thing. No. Now, the first step is, stakeholder meeting and deciding. Well, I think the federal government has not managed that very well. If you recall, when that bill was initiated and taken to the National Assembly, the National Economic Council advised the federal government to wait, let there be more talking before taking it to the National Assembly. It ignored that advice. Now the federal government is now asking the Attorney General to go and talk to, and those is like putting the cart before the horse. So that is one point that but now it's better late than never. So we are now having to sit down and really talk. So one step has been taken now. So I think if it continues in that way, we might have a situation where it percolates down to the small and medium scale enterprise and the younger. That's where you have the youthful population.
Yeah. Where youths and women that feel that they are
exactly
marginalized in the country, their voice is not heard. Thank you, sir. And let's close by this question. How do you think the tax reform will impact foreign investors in the country?
Oh, definitely. You see, the thing about tax is that tax is organic. It's an organic way of measuring your wealth. It's an organic way of measuring the economy. You understand? You see, the investor is more confident when he knows that the moment he pays tax, then he can come in. Then he can come in and do business and he'll be protected. It's easier to use tax money to build infrastructure because every eyeball is trained on that money that I pay every month. Just like I made an example in one other program that I had some time ago, and that you cannot, your GSM, we know the ones that are performing now because we enjoy their service, right? The ones that are not performing, what happens? You leave them. So in fact, I came with 3 different ones. One of them is not even working here. So most times I don't renew my subscription. So that is how it works. So there is always reward for enterprise. So it will bring more investors, because the moment they give value, they get the return.
Sure. Thank you very much, sir, for honoring our invitation. Looking forward to have you on the next episodes of our program and looking forward to drink more from the fountain of your knowledge and wisdom. You are indeed not just a an expert in media, but in economics, and a pan-Nigerian indeed. That's it for today's episode of Nigeria in Focus on Diaspora Digital Media. Stay informed, stay engaged, stay inspired. As we move forward to the next program, we are going to discuss more about the complexities and the challenges of our dear country, Nigeria. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Also, hit the notification bell to get informed when we drop our next video. Thank you for having me. Once again, I'm your host, Ibrahim Umar Wase, aka The General.
Okay. Thank you.